Anthony wore a tie for this. I think it is.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you'll indulge us, please. We are going to an executive session, and as a matter of formality, we need to open a regular session, declare executive session, and then we will adjourn, and we will be back at 6:30 following our executive session. So if I could have a motion, please.
Move that the Select Board enter executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A6, to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property if the Chair declares that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the public body, 410 Great Road.
Second.
I do so declare. Roll call vote, Ms. Napoli. Mr. Rombacher?
Aye.
And the chair is in favor, so the motion carries 3-0. So we're going to adjourn the open session, return to executive session, go to executive session to return to open session at 6:30. Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to begin. We're returning. Excuse me. We're going to begin.
Gavel.
Matt.
What's this?
I don't want to. Thank you. We're going to be. We're returning from executive session to begin our open session, and we'll be. Mr. Mark, can you turn on my microphone? Is this better? Can you hear me now? No. It's on. I'm just going to talk until you tell me that you can hear me.
Yeah, it's in the hallway.
Hello?
I don't think it would be in here.
It doesn't broadcast in here.
1 second.
It doesn't broadcast in here.
You can hear it in the hallway.
We'll just have to be quiet. I'll wait for Judy to tell me. That's what it is. All right, we'll just have to. We'll speak louder, and I'd ask you all to be quiet. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance as we normally do. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. All right, good evening and welcome. My name is Matthew Nordhaus. I'm the chair of the Select Board in Littleton. The Select Board has called this special meeting to discuss operations at 410 Great Road. I'm going to begin with this overview. 410 Great Road is located in the Village Common Mixed Use District, known as our Form-Based Code District. The Village Common Zoning District was adopted at the June 13, 2020 town meeting. Zoning is forward-looking. Any allowed use that existed when a site is rezoned become pre-existing non-conforming use, which means those uses are protected under state law and can continue. The Planning Board specifically included 410 Great Road in the new Village Common District to signal that the town was interested in seeing this site redeveloped. Before June 13, 2020, the 410 Great Road site was zoned Industrial A. Uses allowed in the Industrial A district include retail sales, service limited to no more than 10% of the building's floor area, office, warehousing, manufacturing, and similar. These uses allow for all types of firearm businesses in the Industrial A district before June 13, 2020. The Village Common Mixed Use District does not allow manufacturing uses. Accordingly, no new firearms manufacturing use is permitted at 410 Great Road. However, this appears to be the only limitation on the type of firearms businesses allowed in the Village Common District. The Planning Board has discussed drafting a zoning bylaw regarding firearms businesses and intends to propose a firearms business bylaw at a future town meeting. One of the roles of town government is to maintain and enforce the bylaws under our jurisdiction. These include zoning, health, and safety. Based on our reviews, dealers operating at 410 Great Road site are not in violation of the zoning bylaws. Littleton businesses also must comply with general laws on safety and are subject to yearly inspections by the relevant town department. The businesses operating at 410 Great Road have met all requirements stipulated by the town of Littleton. These requirements include: dealers must be licensed to carry a firearm. That process includes taking an approved firearm safety class for 4 to 8 hours at a cost of $150. Apply for a license to carry firearms. At the police department where you reside, you will be interviewed, fingerprinted, and photographed, undergo extensive criminal history and mental health background checks. It will take anywhere from 4 to 12 weeks if all is clear, at a cost of $100. You have to find a business location zoned for retail and manufacturing. This process includes applying for a business certificate with the town clerk's office at a cost of $30, obtaining an employee identification number from the IRS, applying for a federal firearms license. Criminal history and mental health background check will be performed. Then you will be fingerprinted and have an interview with an agent from the Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, ATF. If approved, you'll get an FFL in a couple of months. Once you have your FFL, you will be subject to random inspections and audits by the ATF. The ATF is aware of all the businesses at 410 Great Road, which have all been inspected by the ATF. You have to set up a National Instant Check System account with the FBI. This is required to do federal background checks. This occurs when transferring firearms, frames, or receivers. You have to apply for the state dealer, gunsmith, and ammo seller licenses at a cost of $200 with the community where the business is located. You will undergo yet another criminal history and mental health background check, get fingerprinted again, and have an interview with the Littleton police chief or his designee. Once you have passed all of these, you should have your dealer's license in 2 to 3 months. If denied, you can appeal. That appeal goes in front of the colonel of the Massachusetts State Police. Once you have your Massachusetts dealer license, you are subject to yearly inspections by the Littleton Police Department, $100 per year. Everyone at 410 Great Road has been inspected by Littleton Police Department numerous times. You must visibly post the material required under MGL Chapter 140, Section 123. This includes copies of your federal firearms license, state licenses, your business certificate, suicide prevention and youth gun safety flyers, and the Massachusetts Safe Storage Information in characters at least 1 inch high. You must apply for a Massachusetts Instant Record Check System account and go through the MIRCS training provided by the Massachusetts Firearms Records Bureau. You can legally transfer firearms to Massachusetts LTC holders subject to federal and state background checks when finished. The Littleton Police Department inspects all firearm businesses at 410 Great Road. The department has received no complaints of illegal in-state sales by these dealers, nor has illegal activity been found during inspections. Considerable public debate has arisen following the publication of articles about businesses at 410 Great Road. Our job tonight as town leadership is to listen to your feedback. At this point, I would like to open up the floor for discussion. Speakers will be allowed 2 minutes for comments, which is in keeping with our standard Littleton Select Board practices during our regular meetings. We ask that you stay on topic and adhere to the time limit to allow as many people as possible to speak. This is a subject with strong opinions on both sides. We ask that you remain respectful of all views, even ones you disagree with. We also ask that you direct any comments to the Select Board and refrain from personal comments about one another or town officials. So thank you very much, and if you would like to speak, if you would please step up to the podium and begin with your name and your address for the record.
My name is Julie Seiter. I live at 167 Harwood Avenue in Littleton. My first question is the law being broken at 410 the 410 Mill Building, whatever it is called? Is the law being broken by any of these dealers? The Globe seems to have found that they were taking advantage of a loophole, which still seems to be that they're operating inside the law. My question is, has there been any evidence of law breaking? If there has not been, has anyone in the town brought it to the attention of the town residents of the enormous amount of growth of gun dealers in our town? I was shocked to read about this in the Globe. This is something that I would hope that our town would keep us informed on. And also, I don't know what Maura Healy's interpretation of the law is versus what the actual interpretation of the law is. And I don't know if any of you, I suppose all of you have read the article. Is this breaking the law? Or is Maura Healy incorrect in her assumption about the loophole?
We tried to answer the questions with that statement, and we're not going to get into commenting on the statements. We really want to hear from everybody who wants to speak tonight. So this is primarily a public feedback forum. So anyone else who would like to speak, feel free to step up to the podium.
I just have a letter I'd like to read that's been signed by a dozen Littleton residents.
Oh, I'm sorry. Could you identify yourself and your address,
please? Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm Molly Flannery. I live at 3 Lakeview Drive in Littleton. So We are excited that the town of Littleton is pursuing a new vision for the mill. We imagine the 80 gun dealers who currently occupy much of the space are decent and kind human beings who wish no one any harm. But unfortunately, the AR-15s and other semi-automatics whose parts and more can be purchased there are the weapons of choice for the mass shooters at schools and malls and town parades. And it's much too easy for these guns to fall into the wrong hands. We would love for us to improve the gun laws in this country to make life safer for all of us. But in the meantime, at least we can try to keep our town safe by replacing these 80 gun dealerships with housing or businesses or art spaces that better serve and reflect our community. We don't believe we want to be known as hosting the largest conglomeration of gun dealers in the United States. Furthermore, the mill is a historic building from the 1880s that could be a beautiful landmark and a source of pride. At present, with its labyrinthine halls and abundance of guns and gunpowder, it's a deadly explosion waiting to happen. We know as a town we can do better.
Thank you.
My name is Alan Silberberg. I'm a resident of town and I have been for 50 plus years. I was also a tenant at the mill for 10 years. My first question is, it seems to me when going over the application for membership in the mill to sell guns, there are certain questions that the police chief requires to be answered. Amongst them, he requires information concerning the name of the person renting space or wanting space there, their mailing address, then why they're seeking the application, whether it's to sell, rent, lease firearms, perform service as a gunsmith, or sell ammunition. Most of these applications, while the chief requires all information, have not been completed. In fact, the majority of the applications fail to include things like mailing addresses for the members, the renters, other than to list the mill. So if one wants to look into these people, one can't find out any information. Date of birth, occupation, social security number, although that's not completely required, who they're employed by, where they live. These are all left blank in almost all the applications. So the question is whether or not these people are operating legally seems to not be, seems automatic. The police chief has required answers to all these questions, and these people have given no answers to most of them, and he's still improved them. When they have given answers, they've listed occupations like engineer, scientist, technical account manager, all sorts of names that are widely open to misinterpretation and insufficient to allow people to identify them. Also, the mill is within a mile and a half of 4 public schools, 1 private school, numerous preschools. I'm wondering if that's the type of thing we want next to all these schools.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mary Dressel, and I live at 16 Adams Street. I have a notebook full of questions, but I'll try to be brief. So one of my concerns that came to me today, too, was something someone already mentioned, which is how did we not know about this as a town? I remember back when CVS was going to come in, it was such a big deal. This is going to change the character of our town. You know, when we had the cannabis shops, there was so much discussion and debate. And then now you're telling me that our town is given 80 business certificates to gun dealers to be in the mill building, again, very close to all of our schools. In a building, my daughters have all went to Kelly's Music, which is there. It's not a very secure place. It is an old mill building. You know, I worry what kids, now that kids know about this, what high school kids are going to do the dare of how do you break into the mill? Come on, we can get ourselves this weapon. I have so many concerns, I could sit here for hours with you. okay? But my main concern is, how did you, as our town, let this happen without us knowing? Like, how did it happen? Also, you said that there's been no violations, but in fact, Chief Pernard said that there have been violations that he has cited, and there's investigations being taken. So stating that there are no violations is actually just not true, and that makes me a little uncomfortable. And I want to know, what is Maura Healy doing? What is she doing? I mean, she's not responding to me. She's not responding to most of us who reached out to her. I've heard that she has offered assistance to the town. Chief Pernard has asked for assistance. And we're told we can't be told this. We need to know what's being done at the state level. And I also want to know, I know there's discussion about the status of the sale. You know, we need to understand what's going on. My daughters don't go to the Kelly's Music anymore, but I know families who are saying, I can't send my kid to music school. Who's wandering the halls of the mill if they think they can get parts of an AK-47 to put together? It's very upsetting. And if there's more time, I have more questions.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Corey Painter, though tonight you can just call me Karen if you want. I am a concerned citizen, but I just want the town to know I have my LTC. I believe in the right to bear arms. I have taught my children how to carry and use weapons. I'm not against it. I'm against what it represents to have like a mission in our town that, you know, floods our local community with the ability to have folks, like the last speaker just said, attracted to our town for nefarious reasons. I think, you know, we should have, you know, a safe way for people to purchase weapons, but I also just think that it's a real tragedy that we have the situation going on here, and I'm in support of whatever we can do as a town to make sure that folks have the ability to carry on their businesses, you know, maybe distributed a little bit more in different areas, and that we can have our town in, you know, representing us the way that we hope it will. Thank you.
Thank you.
Megan Rank, 6 Green Needles Road. I also might go by the name of Karen. AR-15s, that's what's on my mind. I'm tired of hearing them referred by gun enthusiasts as hunting rifles. Tired and angry. Dr. Roy Garrow, the Uvalde pediatrician, describes what he saw that day. Children whose bodies had been pulverized by bullets fired at them, decapitated, flesh ripped off. The only clue was blood-splattered cartoon clothes still clinging to them, clinging for life and finding none. That is not a hunting rifle. A Florida radiologist looking at a CT scan of one of the Marjorie Stoneham Douglas High School said the organs looked like an overripe melon smashed by a sledgehammer. Why? Why are we selling them here? Forgotten Bastards Gun sells just the parts to assembles. We have at least 2 vendors running AR building specials. We know parts are being sold to assemble. I cannot accept that any building in a small town can hold 80 dealers without public safety and safeguards playing in. This is unacceptable. What actions can we take? I cannot accept that there are none. My 2 boys go to Kelly's Music School, and I have been, since learning about this, and we have noticed more signs, we have noticed more activities. There has been more goings on at the mills, and it seems that it has ticked up recently over the past couple months. And I made a difficult decision last week that I didn't want to send my boys to their music school anymore because I was afraid. I was afraid who was going to start coming to this building. I was afraid what was going to happen. And my boys were sad. They were very, very sad. So I have to balance sad boys with an activity that they love versus a terrified mom knowing that these weapons are being sold there. So shame on us. America has a gun problem, and the mill is playing right into increased access. I cannot accept that there is no actions that we can take. Please tell us what we can do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Erica Pudgorny, 6 Fox Lane. I, like everyone else, want to know how we got here, first of all. I mean, we're talking about a town that doesn't allow drive-throughs. The uproar we had over 2 pot shops was unbelievable. I don't know how we got here, and town administration didn't let us know what was going on. It is not acceptable. On top of that, I don't accept that, oh, we'll change the zoning laws is the only thing we can do. We've changed zoning laws, and we can't just sit around and wait for these businesses to go away. I look at the state of our common, and it's still not what we want it to be because we're waiting for businesses to sell before we can change anything. We can't wait on this. I've been on the school committee, and let me tell you, and my kids were in the schools, Littleton has a bullying problem in our schools, and we have admin who won't admit it. I've sat on safety council meetings for schools where the bottom line seems to be, don't worry, it will never happen here. And there is a recipe for disaster in this town. We have guns that are readily available. We have kids who are being traumatized, and we have leaders who don't care or want to pretend it's not happening. And I don't want a Uvalde here in Littleton.
Thank you.
My name is Susan Silberberg. I live at 2 Aspen Road. I've heard a lot of people asking what we can do. I think there's a lot we can do. That building is up for sale. We bought that orchard when it was going out of business because we wanted to preserve it. I don't see why Littleton, and this is a new Board of Selectmen, this is your chance. This is your chance to do something different and really good for us. Look into buying that building. Look into developing that building into something we can be proud of, into housing, into artist studios, into artisan workshops, into a cafe, into maybe a space for NGO community organizations, the League of Women Voters, the Garden Club, maybe even a town paper. We have resources here. We have financial resources and we have people resources. You all need to get creative and use them to make that place something that we look at and we're proud of, something that shows up on the front page of the Globe, because isn't this great what this little town did to save their industrial history and make something 21st century positive? You can do this. You need to step up and do it.
Brian Tarbox, 16 Fletcher Lane, member of, but absolutely not speaking for FinCom, just full disclosure. I'm surprised that we haven't talked about regulation. People talked about the cannabis stores and the 2-year firestorm we had about that, but we regulate the number of tobacco dealerships. We regulate who can sell alcohol. We regulate who can sell gasoline. I think if we said, I think there might be a middle ground between saying, get rid of all the gun stores and saying, hey, how many shops do we have in town that can sell alcohol? I don't know, maybe it's a dozen. Let's set a limit like that. The other thing I'll say is, in terms of the cost of the town doing something, do you think that there are any realtors in town who are saying to their prospective buyers, come to Littleton, we have the most guns of anywhere in town? I promise you they're not. They're trying to downplay this. So while I am also also go to Kelly's Music School, and I'm, afraid for something like that happening. This is absolutely lowering our property values. Homes in Littleton are less attractive now because of this. I can't believe anybody would dispute that. And so this is taking money out of all of our pockets. And if we don't care about maybe all our kids being murdered, maybe we should care about money, or maybe both. Thank you.
Thank you. No one else? I guess I'd like to address a couple of items that seem to be themes here. Would you like to speak to the town article from 2019?
Yes, certainly. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, everyone, for attending tonight and providing us with your feedback and comments regarding this topic. We appreciate you taking the time to be before us. I just wanted to respond to a couple of comments that were made about how this occurred in our town and nobody knew about it, and why town leaders did not take any action to address this. In fact, on October 28th in 2019, special town meeting, the select board brought forward Article 16. It was for pertaining to firearm dealers, and it was a bylaw that we proposed to the residents of Littleton that passed. The objective of the bylaw was to ensure that firearm dealers licensed by the town of Littleton operate in a manner that protects public safety and ensures that the town has adequate financial resources to carry out required inspections of firearm dealers. There was many other provisions that were included in this bylaw, but this bylaw was presented before the residents of Littleton back in 2019. Residents of Littleton were made aware that there were firearm dealers in the town of Littleton. Thank you.
I believe at that time, Chief Bernard stated there were 67 dealers in the building at that town meeting.
Excuse me.
No, sorry. The other thing I want to talk about is the purchase of the mill building by the town. That is something we could do if the town wills it. I believe that that's a topic which is much larger than we can get into tonight. If many of you are interested in discussing it with us, we'd be very happy to speak with you privately or have another meeting to discuss it. Are there any other comments? If you'd like to step up to the podium, please.
Mari Borowski of 41 Ernie's Drive. I have to challenge what you just said. So you say it was stated in 2019 it's a bylaw? Where was that ever publicized or made available? Or, as we're talking about cannabis shops and how that was been put in the forefront. That was something, in my opinion, that was done under the covers without transparency to the community. And that's the issue here, is a lack of transparency with the organization. You say safety is one of your primary objectives. Are you aware of the harassment that's been occurring in Facebook as a result of this? Local citizens are getting threatened with humility, calling people Karen, which is the reason people are saying the word Karen, which I firmly believe it's disgusting.
Mr. Chair, if I may respond
please.
to that. So Littleton holds town meeting twice a year. We hold it in the spring and we hold it in the fall. Every household in Littleton is sent a book that includes every warrant article that will be presented at town meeting. This, in 2019, this bylaw was was part of that book and sent to every residence in Littleton. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I could add to that.
Yes.
Not only is there a book sent home to everybody, we also discuss every warrant article as we're in the process of doing right now. We just closed out our warrant for the November 1st town meeting for this fall special town meeting. We discuss each article, sometimes
at great length.
At great length. And every one of our meetings is public and is open to the public, and we give people an opportunity to speak at those meetings. And there's also a presentation done by the town administrator and the town moderator to present each article and it's run on LCTV. We don't have a newspaper currently. A lot of what gets out there, folks, is on Facebook or on social media. It's not always 100% accurate, and it often has a slant in one direction or another. So to the chair's point, if you have any questions about something that you're reading on social media, reach out to us for clarification, please. Thank you.
Would you like to speak, sir?
Sure. Just very briefly, I'm Dan Hurley. I live at 152 Russell Street, and only want to speak to the aspect of whether or not we have the ability to know about the dealers that were there and other businesses that are in town. There's no doubt at that town meeting a couple of years ago, the chief of police was asking for a specific fee to be put in place from the applicants for gun licenses. And that was a very well-presented discussion, and there was discussion from townspeople. This wasn't a secret. This was at the town meeting, and it was approved in order to have the funding so that he could staff the support of that many dealers, whether or not you agree with it. The other aspect of it, though, is simply that it is not that difficult to know what's going on in the mill building, how many people there, what the gun dealers are. I saw a few signs in there. I live in this town. I want to know. I go in and I look and I learn more. More and more of it's available on town. If you go on the website, there is a page that lists every single business in town and what their address is. And you can see every single dealer in there and everyone as they're added to the list. So I don't fault you guys for not having told us. I feel like it's all there for us if we wanted to know. I also don't feel that it is our town leaders' responsibilities to tell us about every business. Every person who opens up a handkerchief making business or something like that, it's not really their job to tell us if they're not breaking the law and they're doing something. And we don't want them in our house telling anybody else what we're doing, whether it's legal or not. So that's all. If they're not breaking the law, it's not their job.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jane Rossetti, 8 Valley Drive. I just have a couple questions. I did look up on the website and counted how many licenses. The first time a couple weeks ago there were 80, now there are 90. You know, how big is it going to go? And the other thing, in 2019, if there were 50-something business licenses for firearms, why didn't anyone tell this to us? When the question was brought up, the article, why didn't anyone say then? That's all.
As I stated earlier, on the floor of the town, during the debate on this warrant article at town meeting, Chief Pinard stated that there were 67 gun dealers in the mill building, and that was why he was asking for the ability to charge an annual fee for the inspections, because the time it was taking for his officers to do the inspections was becoming onerous.
Yeah, I don't recall that being said. Thank you.
Actually, it looks like, sir, are you going to speak? Yes. Could we have, if you've spoken already, I'd like to let, no, I'd like everyone to have a chance to speak once before someone comes up twice.
Jim Curran, 236 Taylor Street. I'd just like to ask for a show of hands as to how many people in this room would like to see.
We can't do that. We're not going to do voting. We're not going to do polling. Thank you, though.
Very good.
Thank you.
Good evening, Ray Nash, 1 Sheridan Lane. So I'm actually appreciate both sides of the comments that I've heard tonight. Unfortunately, I walked in a little late, so maybe I missed this in kind of some opening remarks. For me, this is, for me personally, this is just more a matter of preference for the type of businesses I like to have in my town and having an ability to influence that. And I think the town spoke up about that a few years ago with some of the marijuana shops that were set up and was put to a vote, and that was a good due process. So for me, and maybe you shared this at the beginning so I can get that information afterwards, but I'm just interested in the various options for due process here, so that if citizens like myself, who actually is opposed to these type of businesses being in town, what due process can I follow, even over an extended period of time, that would allow me to influence the amount of businesses, of gun dealers that can be in the town of Littleton. So that's maybe more of a question, which might bespeak my ignorance and tardiness, but to me, that's what I'd be interested in. I believe that there are other residents who would be interested in taking up that cause through the proper channels. So I'd just be interested in getting that information.
We did speak to it briefly, but in summary, the planning board would need to enact some sort of zoning bylaw to manage the number or location of these licenses. Is
the information, I should know this, but I don't, is the information posted on like town website what the process would be, that a citizen could go to the planning board and make proposals?
Yeah, the planning board schedule is on the town website.
Excellent.
And you can go to their meetings. They're all public
The
meetings.
schedule, but also the due process, so that you can make sure that you follow the proper procedures?
I believe you can find that I don't know the specifics of where you could find the specific.
But if it's available?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Then that's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's right.
Hello, I'm Anthony Rizzo from 290 Foster Street, and I came here looking for answers to kind of separate fact from fiction. And I think one of the things the article in the Globe had said was you could go to one dealer and buy parts for an AR-15, and then you could go to another dealer and get different parts for an AR-15. So you could actually build it, but it got around the law because one dealer wasn't giving you the parts to build it. So I'm kind of looking for an answer. Is there any truth to that, or is that just fiction? And that's about the only real question I have right now, is try to separate that. So
I'll just reread this paragraph. The Littleton Police Department inspects all firearm businesses. The department has received no complaints of illegal in-state sales by these dealers, nor has illegal activity been found during the required inspections.
But the selling of parts is legal. The question is the selling of parts from different dealers to be able to build something legal?
I believe that is a legal question which is far above my pay grade, sir.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, thanks.
You may.
Regarding town meeting, most of us here work. Most of us put in a long day, and often...
Excuse me.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Gentlemen take their hat off inside buildings. Anyway, the question I have is, or the comment I have, is that when we receive a town warrant that simply says move to regulate or impose a fee or whatever it is on firearms dealers in Littleton, and there's nothing else on the warrant that we object to or worry about, many of us will not come. Why? We simply don't have time. But we did elect a board of select people who are supposed to be looking out for our interests on our behalf. You have all been elected by the people of Littleton to represent us, to draw up warrant articles. If you were at any time aware of what was going on at the mill and failed to do your duty as elected officials to serve our town, not to serve gun dealers, not to serve housing development, which seems to be your specialty, why is it that you can turn around and claim, well, it's your fault if you didn't happen to show up and hear the police chief's comment that there were 50 already at that time? Why weren't one of you or whoever was on the Board of Selectmen at that time alarmed on our behalf? Why didn't any of you or your predecessors speak up to protect our town? You were elected. You can be unelected as well. Remember it. You work for the town. You have the right, the obligation to protect us. You work for us. Don't give me this malarkey, if you will, about your town meeting statement that may have been muttered by the police chief 3 years ago.
I'm going to ask you to stop because you're over time. Thank you very much.
Hi, Megan Rank, 6 Green Needles. I was at that town meeting, and I knew about the warrant before, and as any times when I have had concerns about safety, I have reached out to our police chief, Chief Pinard, and he has always taken the time to answer my questions. And what we learned at that point, and how I was somewhat reassured, was that at that time, most of the buildings were described, and it was described like this because there were people at town meeting who were nervous. What? 57?
Excuse me.
No.
Sir?
No.
Ma'am?
We were told that they were places, an address, that in order to have an you needed.
Sir, if you don't, you will remain quiet while someone else is speaking. You will only address me, and you won't speak until you have permission. Do you understand?
They were
as
not.
Well, will you please be quiet as well?
They were not.
Ma'am, I would like you also to be quiet, unless I allow you to speak. We can't get this can't get out of hand. I'm asking you to be quiet now. Someone else has the podium. Please refrain from speaking. Thank you.
At the time, they were described to me as that if people wanted to have a certain type of gun, they needed to have a license, so that if they were a hobbyist, they still needed to have a license. Or that if they wanted to do transactions, they needed to have a business address that wasn't their home. So a lot of us were somewhat reassured that they were not actual shops. That seems to have changed, and I cannot be the only one who has noticed that there are more shops now, and also that in the past couple years, the climate of our country has changed tremendously. And having more shops readily available, it is no longer just the business addresses, but there are more actual shops in that building. We have noticed that. There are more shops. So I do want to I was at that meeting, and I did vote to support that bill because it made sense. But at the time, it appeared that most of the businesses were an address, and now there seems to be shops and build your ARs, and thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Anita Harding, 19 Russell Street. The comment that I have here goes back to people saying they're unaware, they don't know what's going on. They don't know what's happening at town meeting. They don't know when planning board is meeting. They don't know what's going on, and you people are not telling them anything. I've worked for town meeting probably for 30 years, signing people in.
Thank you.
And it's the same people that come every year. It's always a small group. The only time that there is ever any big crowd like this at town meeting is when there is one particular article that everybody in town is interested in. Otherwise, nobody comes. They are well aware of what's happening at town meeting. As someone said before, it's in the newspaper, it's in 4 or 5 places publicly. You get one in your mailbox every year. You can read it or not read it, but that's where the information is. And if you want to be part of this community and you want to decide what you want for this community, you need to start looking at LCTV and start looking at all of the meetings, all of the agendas, what's coming up, what's going to be talked about, and be there. Or if not be there, at least be on Zoom and know what's going on. It's all there for all of you to listen to and have a chance to go to a meeting and discuss it. But what we see at town meeting is something happens and it gets to town meeting and nobody's bothered to go to the planning board or the Board of Health or the selectmen, and then all of a sudden at town meeting it's, I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know what was going on. How can you do that? That's wrong. As citizens of this town in this United States, your job is to be interested in what's going on in your town and take part in what's going on in your town. I'm sorry for yelling.
George Sanders, 672 Great Road. Mr. Chairman, I've been out of town on an emergency situation in Texas. I just got back on Monday. Can you tell me what this meeting is all about? Mr. Sanders, I'm surprised at you. Well, I usually keep abreast, but had some important stuff to do, so don't waste any time. Get to it. I believe that there are 80 gun dealers resident at the mill building who are legally doing business, and we're discussing that situation tonight, sir. Okay, so I guess the point is to start eating up my time here. But anyway, I think someone said early, we elect officials here to do the governor of this town and bring it to the town meeting and let us know what is on the agenda and so forth. And I think you've done a pretty good job at that, okay? But at the same token, when you start talking guns, you know, everybody get a little upset because there's so much going on with guns and people are dying each and every day. But whatever it is that we have to do, I hope that this body will definitely bring it to the head and let the people know, if it's at the town meeting or wherever, let us know exactly what is going on. Now, to have that many dealers in the town of 10,000 people, that's a lot if you're asking me. But nevertheless, people have the freedom to go and do business and conduct business as long as they conform with the laws. But here, we need to make sure that we protect the citizens of this town. This is a great town, and we don't need any gun dealers messing it up. So we're going to stand up, speak up, and do whatever we need to do. And I need to get 30 seconds because you ate up my time there. But I'll give you 20.
So
20? Okay, we'll take 20. Okay, so what I want to say is that I think that this board will do what's right, number one. Number two is that the people are going to do what's right. And number three, you need to ensure, whatever it is, that the people know what's going on. You need to get the information out so the people know what's going on. That's been a sore thumb in this town, not getting information out to people. And they said, well, look here, there. You need to do a better job. And that's no question. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
Hi, John Appleton, Old Orchard Lane. I had a question about, I want to make sure I heard something earlier, was that I understood it properly. Right now, there's no limit on the number of gun licenses that the planning board is able to issue in the town of Littleton. So right now we went from 67 a few years ago to 80, and now I think you said it's 97. So it could be hundreds and hundreds. Is that correct?
The planning board doesn't issue the licenses. The licenses are, in this case, inspected and issued by the police department, the ATF, and the state police, I believe. Excuse me? And the federal government. But yeah, that's correct. The zoning does not. The zoning does not.
Licenses, but
the zoning does not restrict the number of these businesses in town.
Licenses, I meant business licenses. Yeah, I understand that there's a whole
correct.
process.
The zoning does not restrict the number of business.
So we could have hundreds and hundreds of gun dealers here, and right now there's no plan that anybody's aware of on any committee to limit that.
The planning board is discussing a zoning bylaw which would limit the number of firearms dealers in the town.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Jenny Cameron, King Street. I'd like to come back to my concern for our town. I don't know if you have actually spent any time on the internet reading about what's going on. Our mill building is the subject of a lot of interest on gun enthusiast forums all over the internet. Lots of people are talking about it. Anybody who's interested in figuring out where they can get the parts to put together a gun just needs to search, and they find out really fast. I mean, I'm not a gun enthusiast. I'm far from it. And I figured it out real fast. Already had learned about it, but it wasn't hard. Somebody gets mad, and they want to make a big statement. They come to Littleton, they get what they want, and like somebody earlier said, a mile and a half away are all of our children, every one of them. Every child that's in a public school in Littleton is, well, up to 7th grade, 8th grade, is within 1.5 miles and 2 miles to the high school from the mill. Something's got to happen, and something's got to happen really fast, because if we have a tragedy, because of something we know about in this town, it's on every single one of us, and we are gonna hurt. And that is what I have to say.
Thank you.
I just want to address a question a man had about the assault weapons being sold there and the legality of it, because according to the Boston Globe article, there are 25 dealers who are selling the major components with which you can build an AR-15 or a semi-automatic. And the law is a little bit blurry here, but according to Maura Healy's enforcement notice, anybody who is selling any of the major component parts to an AR-15 or other semi-automatics is in violation of the Massachusetts assault weapons ban. So I think to say that there's nothing illegal going on there, that's a question, as you said, beyond your pay grade. And the other thing is the fact that when this came up at town meeting, because Pinard was so overwhelmed, Chief Pinard, with the number of inspections he had to do, it was when there were already 67 of these businesses here. And it does seem kind of crazy. Like people said, you can have, a couple of marijuana stores, you can have a dozen liquor stores, but the number of gun stores that is just unlimited and wasn't even brought to our attention until there were already 67. So that seems very strange.
Thank you. Yeah, you can go ahead.
I'd just like to read 17 words. Columbine, Sandy Hook, Virginia Tech, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, Santa Fe High School, Umpqua Community College, and Uvalde.
Thank you.
Hey everybody, Corey Painter. Just on process, Chief Pinard is the one uniformly allowing all of these gun dealerships or gun dealers to come set up shop in town, right?
He is the one who checks their paperwork and issues or denies their application.
So he solely issues the ability for them to be here and to proliferate.
Well, no, there are federal checks as well.
But if he didn't want them here, he could have the power to just deny more dealers from being here?
I believe he would have to have cause, but again, that's not, I'm speculating at that point. I don't want to venture into the detail, the minutia of the process.
Okay, well, the minutia of the process is actually very important, and we should all be educated on that at this particular junction. So it'd be good for us to all be aligned on what the process is, and then who's accountable for that process. So if he has the ability to not allow this by simply not okaying everybody that came and asked for a license, that's something that we should be aware of. And then we should also be aware of how, he himself is regulated, so he's appointed by the select board?
We have hiring and firing authority over the chief of police.
Perfect. So if you have firing, ability over the chief of police and he has the ability to stop this, that's just something that I think the people in town should know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is William Parker. I'm a business owner at the mill. I just wanted to touch on a couple of things. I'd like to come to the defense of the town. Sorry, can you hear me okay?
Your name, your address, please, just for the record.
410 Great Road.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, I'm.
I'm sorry. My home address 16 Arthur Street.
Okay.
Yeah. I wanted to come to the defense of the town council here a little bit. The businesses are permitted by right, and that's how so many of them got in there. Is that there is no way to stop them it's a very process-driven process, and so if they're permitted by right, there's nothing that the town can do to stop it unless they change the law. And the chief is in there inspecting all of us every year. There's a multi-question questionnaire. One of the questions is, are assault weapons for sale? And it's a no. If there's a yes, obviously he's a fail and they're out of there. It hasn't happened. So I just wanted to come to the defense of you folks a little bit and say that, you know, the way it happened is that it was just permitted by right. So there was really no, if they knew that you guys were concerned about gun dealers, maybe they would have done something, but you could have 50 car washes in there if it's permitted by right. So they don't really have the knowledge to let you know of that unless you tell them you're concerned. So no laws are being, speaking for myself, no laws are being broken in there. I can very, very much appreciate the people's heartfelt concerns. The mill's on its last legs anyways, I believe, so you're going to get your way eventually, but for anybody that's very worried about the safety of their children in that building, everybody in there is permitted, licensed, background checked 100 ways from Sunday, so there are really a lot of very good people there, and that's all I got to say. Thanks.
Thank you.
I just had another question about, oh, sorry, Mary Dressel, 16 Adams Street. Another question about the process. You had mentioned before that they have to get a business certificate?
Yes.
In your summary?
From the town, that's correct.
So who is giving the business certificate to, so Bernard is looking at all the paperwork,
Chief
correct?
Chief
Bernard, I'm sorry. So who is giving the business certificate?
Would that be the town clerk? Town clerk. Yeah, town clerk.
So the town clerk.
Issue the business certificate.
Okay. And if we're talking about doing, the planning board doing zoning that's going to limit the numbers, then the town clerk would say, you know, sorry, we already have our 582 gun dealers. You can't come here, right? Like if we have a limit on the numbers.
Correct.
So it would be the town clerk. So at this point, when someone goes to get that, they bring, I mean, it does sound like we're in Massachusetts, lots of hoops to jump through. You know, that's why I love that I live in Massachusetts. So they come, you know, gun dealer has to have everything in order, go to the chief, and then go to the town clerk. Is that correct? To get the business license?
I'd like to address it if I may.
Yeah.
It's not up to the clerk to be the arbiter of knowing how many of a particular license we have.
Okay.
But there is a process that would be followed. Anybody that opens a business in town has to get maybe the building commissioner has to go in and do an inspection for the building to be built out, or you have to go to the planning board. So there's other checks and balances in that process.
Okay, so that everyone went through those checks and balances. Okay, so then our town did know that we have 97. It was very clear. And then one more thing in the last 20 seconds. So in 2019, Bernard said, I need to be able to charge for
Chief Bernard.
Chief Bernard, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry, we're like this. No, we're not really. Chief Bernard said that he needed the money to be able to do his job, right? But now here we are in 2022, and we're seeing on the cover of the Boston Globe him saying, I can't do this. I'm a small shop. We need help from the state. So I'm concerned about what happened between 2019 and 2022 that we said, okay, the math, we need to get this amount of money so we can staff up, so we can do our job. Here in 2022, Boston Globe has to say, you know, so what's going on? I don't know. We don't have enough money. We need state help. You see what I mean? Like, I feel like there's a judgment there that something was missed along the way.
Okay.
That's just my
Thank
opinion.
you.
I'm Rachel Lindenthal, 6 Kimlock in Littleton. I just moved here fairly recently, so I didn't know anything about Littleton in 2019 besides where it was on the map, vaguely. We know now. I didn't know when I purchased my home. I might have made a different decision. But now I'm here. I guess what I want to know is what can we do? What are the next steps? I don't like it, so I want to know what can be done. Maybe I don't know anything about how your communication is. I heard about this meeting. It seems like you're a little defensive, which I don't understand. We're just bringing concerns. I just want to know what are the next steps? How can I help? What meeting should I come to next? What are the problems? Are there any benefits to this? I can't imagine. Yeah, I wanted more information, so that's why I'm here. I don't like public speaking. I'm only 1 minute in. Wow.
There's a Toastmasters down the hall.
Yeah, I would have had a drink before I came if I knew I was going to speak. But yeah, my son goes to daycare less than a mile from this place. I don't like that. We live walking distance from the mills. I want a coffee shop really bad in this town, so if we could also make that happen as part of this. I love coffee. I don't hate guns, I just don't want them where I live. Yeah, so let me know how I can help get rid of them and what I can do and how I can be a part of this and how I can participate in this community that I'm really excited to be a part of now.
Thank you. I guess I would say you've taken the first step by attending a public meeting, and I would encourage you to continue that.
I'll be here.
I believe the next board that you should engage with is the planning board.
I am normally nursing my son to sleep at this time, so it's a little tricky. I do watch it on LCTV, and I felt this was important enough that hopefully he's not home crying.
Thank
you.
Yes.
My name is Vera Spoor. I live on Newtown Road, and I've been here for many years. I think what has been overlooked is that we were told that the chief had many applications that weren't fully what? They weren't fully filled out, right? And seemingly that was okay. They got their business anyway. So I wonder about that. Why is that? And isn't that the first way to stop people that shouldn't be here? And the second is a very large issue. I think we need to make a distinction nationally between guns and AK-47s, that is, weapons of war. Weapons of war should not be sold in parts or in whole. Thank you.
Thank you.
Karen Morrison, Spruce Street in Littleton. I'm also a fairly pragmatic person, and I'd just like to say that, the mill is a structural tinderbox. It's repeatedly and consistently described as a labyrinth, and it's full of dangerous inventory. I would like for the board and any other powers that be to explore and enact fire codes to address this obvious hazard in the middle of our town. I also hope the SB will fully review the allegations made tonight that non-compliant applications were approved. I would encourage an immediate third-party audit of the applications that have been submitted and approved. I think that's a very reasonable first step. Let's find out from a disinterested third party how many of the folks in that building should have gotten the approvals that they have been given. And let's take it from there, based on those findings. And I would say, regardless of what the select board might think about our participation in the past, we're here now. We're telling you that this is not how we want our town to be. We're asking you to do everything in your power to turn this around. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may,
yes.
I just want to address Mr. Silberberg. He came into our office and he addressed some applications that were incomplete.
Could you speak?
I'm addressing Mr. Silberberg's concerns with the applications that were submitted to the police chief that he thought were incomplete. I looked into that matter. The reason why those fields were left blank is because they were redacted. So those applications are actually complete.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Caprice Tarbox, Fletcher Lane. I never speak in public. This is a demonstration of how strongly I feel about this subject. I'm admittedly an extremist. I am completely anti-gun. I wish there were no guns. I understand that that's an extreme position, and I actually have friends who are gun owners, and I respect that they are responsible with their guns. And I want to applaud and acknowledge the Karens who stood up and spoke. I really appreciate what you had to say. And what I want is, I want this situation resolved. I want to go on public record and have it known that I am not okay with us having this explosion of gun dealers and becoming known as a center of gun dealership, and in particular, a place where people can buy the components of automatic weapons. I'm not okay with it. My son also attended the music school there. It's a lovely environment, and I used to drop him off, and you know, I always walked him up, and then at a certain age, you know, when he started to become a teenager, I started to give him a little more freedom, and now I'm shocked to hear that I was letting him walk alone in a building where this stuff was going on. And I'm sure that many of the dealers there are lovely people. One of the gentlemen who spoke a few minutes ago sounded like a reasonable person. I'm not suggesting that these are all crazy people, but this is not okay with me and not in my town.
Thank you.
Good evening, Peter Scott, Scott Road. I guess I've heard all these self-proclaimed Karens and people coming to town and they want to come here, but you came here because it's a nice, small, cared about town. We care about each other. That's what we do here. We also support the Constitution. We have the right to do what these people are doing in there. We have a police force that's on top of everything. I see them multiple times a day. How you can turn around and try and mandate a job or a business that's in town legally. They operate legally. They're inspected legally. The federal government, the state government, the local government. And you to sit here and chastise this board and the police department, it, to me, is beyond reproach. You should be ashamed of yourselves. You came here because you liked Littleton. And now you want to change it to where you came from. Go back, okay? Go back. The town is what it is. We're good people, and we always have been, and we always will be. You people brought your children to that school, dropped them off for years. You never knew there was a problem with the mill building, till the Boston Globe comes sticking their nose in our little town. Because Maura Healey wants to make a name for herself. She can go away too. We're a good town, and we're good people. And that's why I assume you're here. And I do respect those people that don't like guns. I get it, it's okay. But when someone comes for them, they come for whatever they want of yours, and you have no way to defend yourself. None, regardless of weapons. Then you're gonna find out what it's really like. Thank you very much, and I appreciate your work.
So I just want to say that hearing people say that these are legal operations doesn't bring me much solace. All you have to do is open a newspaper and read about the last mass shooting. Legally purchased gun, legally purchased a gun, legally owned. It doesn't stop the tragedies. I also want to push back a little bit about that town meeting article. I was at that town meeting and was shocked and appalled to hear about the 67 gun licenses at that point. But like Megan said, from Chief Pernard's comments, I got the feeling that it was a guy, you know, who did reenactments and had one gun that he sold, and he needed to have a license in order to do it. And at that point, 67, and we couldn't keep up with it, and that's why we had to pass that bylaw. And yet we let it grow to 90? What were we thinking? And the article says that Chief Bernard has said that he can't keep up with it. Why are we allowing this? And in terms of pushing back about people should have known, you know, people have busy lives. And this board, when they want people to know about things, make sure they know. So there have been multiple outreach about turf fields, about the library, about the sewer, about the zoning changes, about the master plan. There have been tons of outreaches, tons of public meetings. I never heard anything about this. Also, most people, when they get that town meeting report, they read it, and if there's something they're worried about or they think they disagree with, they go to town meeting. I don't see many people disagreeing with the fact that the chief of police needs more money to be able to research these gun licenses to keep us safe. It didn't say in the town report that there were 67 licenses. It didn't say that we were going to let it keep growing until there were 100.
Can you conclude, please?
So I think it's really unfair to put this on the citizens, and I think it is your responsibility as our elected officials to let us know and to keep us informed.
Thank you. If there are no more comments, do the board members want to, Mr. Yancey?
Just one thing I want to bring to everybody's attention. There was a lot of interest in following the planning board meeting where they're going to be discussing this is on October 6th at 6:30, or is it 7?
It's being determined right now.
6 o'clock. So it's going to be 6 o'clock, October 6th in room 103 at Town Hall.
Thank you. Yes?
Mari Borowski, 41 Ernie's Drive. Just clarification for the person who spoke from the Mill building, did not disclose what town he was from. Could I get a clarification?
I thought he did.
He gave a street address. Okay.
There we go.
Maynard.
He's from Maynard.
Clarification, is this for Littleton residents or all open residents?
This is a public meeting for
Okay.
anyone.
All right, thank you very much. Second question I have is in regard to the redaction, is that public record? They were not redacted.
They were redacted.
Redacted for
Sir,
the purposes.
enough.
That went through
You may
town
not talk to
council.
her. You may direct your comment through me when you have permission to speak.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you. I can,
It went through town council and was redacted.
via the town council. Okay, thank you very much. Next question, in regard to the October 6th meeting, is that, when can we expect the bylaw to get into action? What is the time frame that we're speaking of?
That will be addressed. That will have to be addressed at the planning board. That's for them to determine.
Could you give us some kind of estimate? How long does a bylaw like that take to get through?
I can't give you an estimate because I don't have that information tonight. I'm sorry. I would say months.
So
But-
within those months, we could get how many more dealers?
I would really prefer not to speculate.
Okay.
I would really prefer not to speculate.
Okay.
The planning board will debate it, and, I mean, you can speak to them.
Okay.
Yeah.
And last comment, the reason that we understand that this meeting actually occurred was because of the Boston Globe. That's how we got our information. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I think we will, if there are any other comments from the board, I'd like to adjourn. Anyone else have comments?
No.
The only comment I have is a couple of people have referenced that we should be telling people about, you know, there's a lot of things that we do well, there's a lot of things that we can improve upon, and communication is one of those things that we always have as one of our goals. And I think communicating a legal business to residents is beyond the expectations or our responsibility. I'll speak for myself personally as one of the members of the select board. I didn't notify people when Donlands was changing hands or when Acton Toyota was changing hands and it was a new business license, or when... I apologize. I do believe that there is an opportunity for us to improve our communication, but I don't think the expectation that the board is going to notify residents of every new business license that comes into town. I don't think that's a reasonable expectation.
Thank you. All right, if there's no more comments, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Chuck and seconded by Cindy. All those in favor say aye. Aye. The motion carries 5-0. We're adjourned. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.